you know, we're aware that we've got almost like stitched up. The Labour Party's kind of stitched up. The establishment seems to be in total control. We've got two parties that aren't very different. People are quite depressed and a bit deflated. But I just want to remind people that before 2015, people were pretty deflated then. And people didn't really have much hope before 2015. And then something happened in 2015, which changed everyone's perspective. And I'd just like to share a video of my own time as an enthusiastic political activist between 2015 and 2019. So I'm just going to play this short video to give you a flavour of what I'm talking about.
I've got my t-shirt on, and guess what? Look at these other people who've got a t-shirt on. You won't believe how many people in this cafe have got a t-shirt on. Are you ready for this? Really, look, there's two, look, coffees, look, more, look. It's all over the place. Look at the back there, look, there's two there. Look, it's packed. And who's voted? And did you vote for the Tories? Did you vote for Lib Dems? What's that badge you've got on you there? Oh, it looks like a Labour badge. Oh no, I'm in the wrong cafe. Oh no, full of Corbyn supporters. Can you imagine a Tory walking in right now? How welcome they'd feel. Oh, Jeremy Corbyn! 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 Oh, Jeremy Corbyn!
We're stood here today in Jeremy Corbyn t-shirts because we believe in a fairer society. We don't believe in the richer and the poorer. We believe that everyone should earn what they deserve to earn, and that is why we are here today.
There you go. Lots of people very excited about politics, and what we've seen is that people on this call, lots of people on this call were part of that movement for Jeremy Corbyn from 2015 right up to 2020, and we've got lots of people who are going to speak on the call about what that time meant to them. But before we go into that, there was a survey that went out, which I put out this week to ask people what they felt about that time period. The first question of that survey was, do you think we should commemorate Jeremy Corbyn's leadership of Labour? So that's an endorsement from 86% of our subscribers on the show. Only the others were saying we should celebrate Jeremy Corbyn's leadership of Labour. The 9%, I don't know who they are. And I'd like to just tell you what the top 10 moments of that period were as voted for by the subscribers. So we have number 10, the NEC decision that Jeremy Corbyn would be on the ballot paper in 2016. That was a very popular moment of that period. Number 9, Stormzy getting the Glastonbury crowd to sing "Oh, Jeremy Corbyn." Number 8, vast numbers of people out on election day. Number 7, massive outdoor rallies during the 2016 leadership election campaign. As you can see, that was a massive one in Liverpool. Number 6, Jeremy Corbyn speaking at Glastonbury. Number 5, overspilled public rallies for Jeremy Corbyn in 2015. That was incredible, just seeing, I'd never seen halls that didn't have enough space in, and people had to go out in the street, and he went on a fire engine and stuff. Number 4, the exit poll for the 2017 general election. I remember that. That was a great time to hear that exit poll. Number 3, Labour leadership results in 2015. Great. I mean, that was fantastic. Number 2, here we are. We come to the top 2. Enormous rallies during the 2017 general election. and number one, which I'm sure you're waiting for, is the Labour Party manifesto in 2017, voted number one by subscribers as the top high point of the Corbyn leadership. And joining us to talk about that in particular is Andrew Fisher. Hi, Andrew.
Hi.
You were also identified. If I'll just share this this slide here. You were identified as a hardline socialist manifesto.
Yeah.
I actually caught you when you just weren't suspecting them, so you look kind of fishy.
Beard. Yeah.
So it's great to see you, hardline socialist. So what I mean, that manifesto, I was really surprised but it was the number one event of the whole period, and I thought it would be Glastonbury or something like that. But an actual piece of a book, a book was the top thing. Why do you think people loved it so much? I mean, there's so much to say about it. What's your feeling on that?
I think it's the old Tony Benn dictum, isn't it? It's policies, not personalities. That's what inspires us as the left. It's about the politics. It's about what we want to achieve, not who we are or individuals. And as much as we all admire Jeremy Corbyn, and let's be clear, that manifesto wouldn't have been the Labour manifesto without Jeremy Corbyn. But it's the policies that really inspired people to get out there. And that manifesto caught a kind of popular mood in the country and it spoke to things. It was called For the Many, Not the Few, which was an inspired title, not my efforts, I have to say. But everything within it fitted within that. So we wanted redistributive taxation, because that's for the many, not the few. We wanted investment in public services and an end to austerity, because that's for the many, not the few. We wanted public ownership, so that our key utilities and public services are run for the benefit of the many, not the few. So everything about it was coherent, clear, and it was just a basic kind of outlining of socialist or social democratic policies that I think most people in the Labour Party could get behind. I remember just after the election, a Labour MP didn't vote for Jeremy, probably voted for Owen Smith and campaigned for him, came up to me and said that was the best manifesto I've ever stood on. And the thing is, I think what that told me is, both within the Labour Party membership and within Labour MPs sometimes, there's some people out there who actually do agree with us on maybe 80–90% of the time on things, but actually just haven't got the confidence that they can win on those things. They think it's unachievable. But for that brief window, we proved it was achievable. It was, it's the first time since 1997 we gained seats in an election. The only time this century we've gained seats in an election as the Labour Party. We got 40% of the vote. I'm sure you all know all of this. But in effect, what we showed was that actually having good, bold socialist policies could unite people and be electorally, beneficial. Not overall successful. We didn't quite make it, but we gained a lot of seats at a time when people had written us off. And I think it inspired activists to come out and campaign. That was the biggest sort of benefit of it. I remember, speaking to lots of activists. I mean, I was stuck in, Labour HQ for 99% of the election and barely sleeping. But, from what I heard from all around the country, people were going out in unprecedented numbers because they felt they had something. They were armed with policies to go out on the doorstep and say, this is why you should vote Labour. And whether it was public ownership or childcare or ending austerity or, ending the sort of punitive welfare policies, people had a motivation to get out there and go, yeah, this is why you should vote for Labour.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing events around the time, and often on as a prize, a raffle prize or something, was a signed manifesto. I mean, I don't think ever before people have wanted a signed manifesto. I mean, it had that much power to it.
It did. I mean, the party sold thousands of copies off of the website. They had to do 3 extra print runs of it, I think. It was downloaded something like 6 million times in the sort of 4 weeks between its official publication and the election. I mean, it was incredible. It really caught the wave in a way that I don't think any manifesto probably ever has.
Yeah, I mean, when I was canvassing, I remember canvassing, and there'd be something for everyone else. I mean, I could talk to one person about the defence policy, and that would be enough to win them over, forgetting the other stuff, the nationalisation. And there were so many areas that were radical that people were happy with, that you could choose them. So what was your other highlight? I mean, if you would say something else that was a highlight of that time, what would you say?
I think it would be the 2015 election campaign. So I worked on Jeremy's leadership. I was sort of, I guess, head of policy for Jeremy's leadership campaign in 2015, which made it much easier then to be able to translate that into the manifesto in 2017. And that campaign, I wouldn't really want to pick a moment of it, but just the whole experience of seeing people flood into the Labour Party enthusiastically, especially young people, because I was in my mid-30s back then. I'm obviously in my early 40s now, but
you don't look that.
Thank you. It's socialism, it keeps you young, you know. But often
you're going to, I thought you were going to say I don't. Anyway, don't worry, it doesn't matter.
It keeps us all young. We all look young, you know, clearly. But I would go to my local Labour Party meeting, and I'd often be the youngest person there, which, when I'm approaching middle age, shouldn't be the case. And within a year, I was going there, and there were 10 or 20 people younger than me, some of them half my age, and it was just so. I just felt so enthusiastic about it. It was just brilliant how that transformed the party in that period. So the 2015 leadership election, whether it's the result or the rallies or any part of it, that for me was the bit that I think, apart from 2017, was the part that inspired me the most.
Well, thank you very much for coming on. There's loads of people who are coming to talk about their experience of that time, and I'm hoping yes, the next person to speak is Raj Gill. Raj, are you there? You are. Can you hear me, Raj?
Yes, I can.
Now, Raj, I met you in West London around that time, and you told we just spoke yesterday on the phone, and I had no idea about this, that you actually were key to Jeremy getting onto the ballot paper at all, because you managed to persuade someone to put his name down. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, I mean, I had contacted a number of local MPs, and I was in direct communication with John McDonnell at the time, when we were seeing the numbers of people, MPs, signing up for Jeremy, and it was ticking along, and we got to the last few, I think 36 or 35, around by that figure. And John was saying, Raj, can you do anything? And I said, well, as promised, John, I'll get my local MP to sign on. And since I had a hand in trying to, well, I did have a hand to put Rupa Huq, the Labour MP in Ealing Central and Acton, on the ballot, and she won and campaigned for her. So she kind of owed me something. So I went to Rupa, I said, look, Rupa, I know we don't agree on certain issues, but here it is. We got a chance of getting Jeremy on the ballot, and you need to get down there and sign on the dotted line. And she delivered. She went there, and there was about 5 minutes to spare. And John McDonnell was going crazy on the phone because I had our phone in one ear and I was speaking on the other. I said, John, calm down. Yeah, she'll be up there and she'll sign, and we'll have the necessary numbers to put Jeremy on the ballot.
So you, if it hadn't been for you, I mean, in some way we wouldn't have had this whole thing. So people are saying thank you in the chat. I mean, I have to say thank you to you for that as well. The other thing, though, because we haven't got very much time, there's so many people. I want to talk to Jeremy at the end to hear what he's got to say. So I don't want to keep him too long. But in Ealing, you organised a public meeting as well. So you not only got Jeremy on helped to get Jeremy onto the ballot paper, but you organised a public meeting, which was all over world media, wasn't it? Because what can you tell us how many people turned up, and how many rooms did you book, and what happened with that?
Well, originally we booked main hall at the Ealing Town Hall. The capacity was between 400 and 450. And then we found ourselves with filling that. And then we booked another room, which capacity was about 150, 200. And we were quietly confident we will get people turning up. And as it happened, we had somewhere between 700 and 850 people turn up. And people were lining up, queuing up outside Ealing Town Hall, and they were very excited. And it was like we all got involved. It was like Jeremy, a white knight, which we always hoped for. Somebody would come around and preach our socialism, and he was the person. It took a bit of a time because, as we talked about other campaigns like the CND, austerity, and loads of other issues, it was just the movement, the whole movement behind the person and his ideal that everyone resonated. And it was a fantastic meeting. It went worldwide. I chaired the meeting, and we had a number of people on here who were on the platform. Certainly one or two I recognize.
Well, can I just say that Ealing meeting is kind of like it built up the whole thing for the next one, because every other town he went to seemed to have the same thing. It's like he'd been in one town and it had been oversubscribed. It's like everyone was doing it. Thank you so much for coming on, Raj. It's good to see you, and thank you so much for what you did during that time as well.
Thank you.
Now I'm going to move on to Robert, who's in Hackney. Bob, how are you doing?
Hi, Crispin. Yeah, I'm tired from yesterday, but yeah, thanks for having me back. Yeah.
Now I've got you sent me some pictures of you during the time, and I've just put them onto one here. This is that you've got one there, the Keep Corbyn event. So that was sort of 2016, obviously, and then you've got one. Is that in 2017?
That was when we did a mass swoop down to Croydon South for was it Sarah James? So that's all us lots from both Hackney North and Hackney South on our way to Croydon South.
So people in Hackney actually went south of the river. Are you saying you actually went south?
We got our booster jabs and everything, and
yeah, that's going beyond the call of duty, going south of the river. But so what happened? I mean, so did you think? What was the result in Croydon? Can you remind us?
Sarah did win back the seat. I can't remember the figures. It wasn't huge, but I can tell you that the estates that we went round, there were still people on when we were door knocking that were Britain First voters, and not just UKIP, they were the original Britain First.
Wow.
So yeah.
And
it was like, that don't knock they're a Tory and stuff like that. So, but we did get a lot of, there were, I mean, throughout that 2017 campaign, I mean, it wherever you went, huge numbers of people turned out to knock doors, and myself, because I can't do a lot of walking around, I run the board, so to speak. And it was like this tidal wave of people coming out. We had so much hope. And here's my very battered copy of the manifesto. It went everywhere with me. And I've got a deluge of signatures.
Oh, you've got it signed as well.
Right. But, yeah, I've got the original T-shirt on, the one that you very kindly got signed for me at your one of your JC 4 PM shows.
Oh,
but
really?
yeah,
it wasn't that long ago, was it, really, that we were full of hope, and it was almost like I felt almost drunk on the hope. It was so amazing to feel all this energy. I mean, on that 2017 day, the election day, I mean, I was in Ealing, which was meant to be a marginal, and every 10 seconds, another lot of people would go out getting knocking up for people to vote, getting the vote out. There was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, weren't there? And we're not that far away from there again. We just need someone who's got a bit of courage to put their name forward, like Jeremy put his name on that ballot paper, put himself forward, and after that we all came after, didn't we?
Well, we need, as Jeremy is, I mean, obviously he's my next door neighbour MP. So he's a man of the people. He's got panache and above all, integrity. What comes out of his mouth is true beliefs, and his mantra: things can and they will change.
Yeah.
And it was exuberating, even on that final election day, thinking, this is it, this is the moment, so to speak. And where are we going to go? Because I mean, Hackney South is one of the safest seats going. So, where are we going to go on election day itself? So
thank you, Bob. I'm going to have to move on because I'm trying to. If you want to speak, please put your hand up. I've got a list of names of people who've got back to me already. But if you do want to come in, we'll try and get as many people on before 12:15, and then I'm going to speak to Jeremy, see what Jeremy says. Thank you, Bob. Now, one of the inspirations behind this whole idea of speaking about this was talking to Steve Price on Wednesdays, not PMQs. Steve, can you hear me?
Can hear you, Crispy.
Yeah. No, so
Yeah.
Can you tell us your high of that campaign, that whole 2015 to 2019? I mean, you were involved the whole way, weren't you? So what memories have you got from then?
Yeah. I mean, the time is short, and there's a lot of people want to speak, which is brilliant. And of course, the great man himself is going to be on later. Yeah, I mean, I was pretty well involved in all the things that have been discussed, and the chicken queue. I remember very, very well being in Parliament Square, and 2017, of course. I mean, I've started at the beginning actually, which was I remember when Jeremy got on the ballot, and everybody said that it was fantastic having a socialist on the ballot, but obviously there was kind of no possibility that he could win. If you remember, it was 200 to 1, wasn't he, to win? And I went to a hustings in Birmingham, one of the official hustings with the 4 main candidates, Jeremy and Yvette and Liz 4% and Andy Burnham. And about 1,500 people went to this rally, and this was before the surge. This was the established membership, the membership that had backed Ed Miliband in his attempt to become Prime Minister. And so I went to this rally, and I thought that Cooper was going to win this, to be honest, Yvette Cooper, because the state of the party at that time was, it was pretty moribund, to be honest with you. So there are each of the contending candidates had 10 questions, I think, or 10 things to speak on. I think the second one was about austerity, and the fourth one I think was about war, probably about Iraq. And so they took turns to speak, and so Yvette Cooper spoke, and she was just dead. There was no lifeless thing. There was nothing in a speech at all. Liz kind of spoke at high speed, and it was rubbish, to be honest. And then Burnham spoke, and Burnham was good. Burnham, he put a decent speech, and he got a decent round of applause. And then Jeremy spoke, and to my astonishment, there was kind of thunderous applause in the room. And I thought, whoa, because that's what I think, and that's what this Jeremy's talking my language. He's talking about the austerity lie, which was class war on the working class, about being anti-war, and I've always been anti-war, and it resonated with these people. And this was before the surge, before everybody came into the party inspired by Jeremy's ideas. This was the established membership who I think were looking for change. They'd kind of had enough, and they responded to Jeremy's message. So that was my first kind of inkling that something radical was happening, something dramatic was happening. I could give you several other examples at that time, but I'll give you one particular one, which was in Manchester, because Jeremy went to Manchester during the Tory conference, which was very naughty because they're not supposed to do that. But as we know, he's not the Messiah, he's just a very naughty boy. And so he turned up for this rally at the cathedral, and I booked a ticket in advance. So when I got there, of course, I was told there was no room inside the cathedral, which takes about 1,000 people. And I said, we're going to do something outside. I said, okay. So I stood around, and thousands and thousands of people turned up. And I thought, what the hell? Who are these people? Where have they been, for the last few years when we've been getting smashed by the Tories and been sold out by Tony Blair? And I think they said there were 8,000 people. Wow. 8,000 people to hear Jeremy speak. I think Owen Jones was on the platform, and a few other people, the great and the good and the not so good. But I was astonished by that. And there was an electricity in the air. You could feel the energy. And that energy carried on throughout 2015 to 2016 and into 2017. And we know that the membership grew. They were inspired by Jeremy's ideas. But it was a left project. So I think what I'll say about the importance of Jeremy, because Jeremy, he didn't seek leadership. It was, what's that Shakespeare thing? It thrust upon him. He put his hand up and said, yeah, okay, I'll do it. Not expecting to win. But he was magnificent, and he endured so much with that kind of Zen quality that he's got. And what it was about him was people could mobilize behind Jeremy and behind the ideas, the manifesto in particular, 2017, a set of ideas that brought people who didn't actually agree about a lot of things quite often. What the left are like, they was fighting each other, but they could get behind the notion that we could have a socialist prime minister. And where we are now is we've lost that. What are we going to mobilize around? Because the left is so fractured and fragmented. Right. And we desperately need unity. And I'll shut up now.
No, you went into a downer there. You're not allowed to do that. Thank you, Steve. No, obviously people can, but I don't want to stop people saying what they want to say. But this is a moment for people to talk about the time that they enjoyed that campaign, what it was that they loved about that era, the 2015 to 2020 era. Kathy Bradley, what would you like to say?
Oh, it was just so amazing, so fabulous to be part of something that was going to change things. It was wonderful. And I was getting messages on the doorstep and at polling stations that conflicted with the landslide poll prediction of the night before of the 2017 election. I couldn't believe it. I thought, this is really odd, because it's not matching what I'm experiencing on the doorstep, which was huge enthusiasm for that manifesto from all across Canterbury, where I was campaigning. And the highlight was being at the count in Canterbury, Westgate Hall, on the evening of the election, and watching the numbers mount up for the Labour candidate, Rosie Duffield, and just couldn't believe it. It was a massive, massive swing to Labour. I think it was a 20% swing to Labour from the Tories, who'd held the seat for decades, forever. And it was just unbelievable, fabulous, fabulous vindication of everything we've been working for, and for Corbyn and on socialism. It was fabulous, and there was an appetite, and I think there still is somewhere, lots of people who believed in all that, and we're still around.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Kathy. Good to see you again. I'm going to bring in Mia Mantry. Mia?
Yeah. Well, for many years, I felt quite basically I was subjected to a decade-long hate campaign for my activism against the war on terror, and I really felt very unsafe in society, and just seeing Jeremy Corbyn elected, that gave me a sense of hope. And I had a breakdown in 2016, 2017, just because of the years of abuse I got. But seeing Jeremy Corbyn, like whenever he spoke, that was one of the main things that would calm me a bit. And like my breakdown was at its peak during the 2017 election, and I actually went away from home and campaigned in Keighley and Bolton, and that really calmed me, meeting with the right sort of people. But that Corbyn's leadership saw me through some very dark times and gave me hope when at a point I really needed it. So yeah, but no, I think I think there was hope that we begin to live in a less hateful society where people could sort of speak out against the police state without getting abuse for it. So yeah, that's me.
Oh, thank you for sharing your memories of that time. Now I'm going to bring on Azar Malik. He's put his hand up. Azar, are you there?
I'm here. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can. Yeah, I've added you as your picture now.
Okay.
What's your best memory of Jeremy Corbyn's time as leader or running up to the leadership?
Yeah, I think first of all that you mentioned earlier that before 2015 that basically most of us, the socialists, were deflated. I would say that actually I was not that much deflated because I was lucky enough to be living in a proper socialist constituency since I moved in Jeremy Corbyn's constituency in 1990s.
So you're in his constituency.
Yes, yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
okay. Well, that's cheating. You get an extra point there, don't you?
Exactly. So I was lucky enough that I was just thinking that a man with integrity, honesty, and proper socialist, and on the side of the majority, not only in Britain but all over the world, has to be the person that for me to be fortunate enough to know him and to be in his constituency. But as far as the 2015 and after is concerned, obviously there are many beautiful and many memorable times. But I think Andrew Fisher has already mentioned, for me, the most important one is that Jeremy Corbyn's, the way he has basically energized and youth in the 2015. Right. Basically all that since Maggie Thatcher, in my view, that's the time when actually I came as a refugee in this country in early 80s. And I was shocked to see, I was student activist before coming here. I was shocked to see that students were not, young people were not that involved in politics. And that was the way the brutally Maggie Thatcher's policy depoliticized people and all that. So since then, the first time it was Jeremy Corbyn's and his really lifelong record, the way he did his politics, that it just unleashed this power of the youth, because they first time saw a hope in a democratic socialist society and Jeremy's record, lifelong record. And on that personal thing which excites me is that my three daughters, got involved. They were teenagers, got involved day and night fully in his in the campaign, in his 2015 campaign. And as a pleasant, which makes me happy, thing happened is that I was doing my surgery when a friend phoned me. He said, "Oh, you know that your daughter Rohi is introducing Jeremy Corbyn in the 2015 Labour Party conference." So I, between patients, I rushed up to my surgery and put the television on and just saw that beautiful, and it was really even makes me cry now. So I was the proudest father and part of this whole movement which made us hopeful. And I still feel that that power which Jeremy Corbyn has really made to wake up these youth, it is going to stay and it will come back. Hope is there when in the future time, right time comes, all those hundreds of thousands of young people at that time who participated actively, they are going to play their part and bring some hope again in action. Thank you. That's what I had to say. Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming on. Thank you. Right now, I'm going to move on to Tony Free, who's put his hand up. If we can keep these down to 2 minutes, that would be good. Don't get as many people on that way.
Yes. Good morning. After the depression of the creeping disease of Blairism, Jeremy Corbyn came along, and it wasn't just his qualities which were exemplary as a human being for me. It was the fact that he articulated the policies that were in my heart as a socialist. And I believe those policies are in the heart of all decent people. Decent people at heart should be socialist, because we have to believe that one day we could have socialism which covered everybody. All I can say is thank you so much, Jeremy, for what you've done. It's given me hope, which sadly at the moment is dead. I'm just waiting for something to happen. And I so wish that Jeremy would give his name to a new party that we could all get behind.
All right, well, let's not go into that. Thank you, Tony. Now, Louise Castro. Louise, are you there?
I am, thank you.
Let me just, there you go, Louise.
Hello.
Hi, Louise. What was your top memory of that era, 2015 to 2020?
Slightly different. I've been a lifelong protester against loads of things. I've been arrested countless times. I've protested against the poll tax. I stood in Trafalgar Square. I protested against Trident. I've been arrested at Dicey protesting against the arms fair. Protested against the Iraq war. I ran a campaign that was don't waste your vote, spoil it, during the Iraq war, that resulted in a letter from Number 10 and Tony Blair saying my friend and I had we'd spoiled the course of true democracy. And my partner's the same. He was heavily involved in the Toxteth riots. He was one of the love activists. He squatted Gary Neville's hotel in Manchester. He was arrested on times 3 times a day for protesting against the alleged corruption of Joe Anderson. And loads of my friends are the same. They're anarchists that have never voted. And we've always protested against things. And when Jeremy Corbyn was elected, and of course I've seen Jeremy Corbyn on many occasions standing and speaking against war and for peace and for justice. And many of my friends like me, we didn't participate in the electoral system. We didn't believe in it. And for the first time, anarchists were registering to vote. And people were talking about not what we were against, but what we were for. And that manifesto and Jeremy Corbyn was like a beacon of hope shining in the darkness of corruption and exploitation and war. And yes, his words were so prophetic. It's not me they fear, it's you. And, you know, they did expire. They thought they'd expired that beacon, and the darkness had once again fallen, and they can do what they want to us. But actually, you know, that beacon is burning, it's smouldering away. We just need to find our way through the darkness and relight it again. And that's how I feel. And Jeremy Corbyn was our hope, and that manifesto spoke for us all.
Thank you very much, Louisa. It's great to hear from you. Thank you. Now, Colin Hendry, he wrote in to tell me a story about his top moment. Colin?
Yeah, hi, thanks, Crispin. Yeah, I'm sort of a little bit reluctant to put a bit of a dampener on what is just such an inspiring session here. We remember the time 2015 when lightning went through the zeitgeist, and we were all so inspired. And even just saying those words, I've got goosebumps on my arms thinking about it. I was an early adopter, as it were. I rejoined the Labour Party before Jeremy got on the ballot, because I was interested in being able to vote for him were he to be got on the ballot. And because of that, I became a delegate for the conference where they announced the leadership results.
Wow.
And that was a really interesting experience, because I was happy skipping down the road, brilliant, you know, I'm confident Jeremy's going to win. And then when we got to the Queen Elizabeth Centre, the great and the good, you know, we've heard of the old school Labourites, they were the other delegates. And it was very, very clear that they weren't happy. Chuntering is the kind of the expression in Yorkshire where I'm living. People really weren't happy. So you see the photographs, and I sent you one. I don't know if you looked at it, but it's that classic photograph where the leadership's just been announced, everyone's clapping. Jeremy's looking to the camera. Just off to his left is Andy Burnham, who's looking like someone's stolen his ice cream. And then between those two, you see Vernon Croker, and he's an old school Blairite. And his face was dark and grim, and it just reminded me of someone on a grassy knoll somewhere, and that kind of gave me an indication of what was gonna happen next. So from that, when he was announced as the leadership, it was a wonderful moment for me personally and for other people. It was an indication of the dark things that were going to happen from the right of the party. So that's a little bit of a downer. Can I just say again, just very, very quickly, that we talk about the light gone out. Just listen to or feel the emotion and the feelings that are being generated just by talking about this. That spark could be ignited again in a moment. You know, all it takes is someone to stand forward, and that 250,000, 300,000 people that are now disillusioned with the Labour Party, they'll all be there again in an instant.
That's exactly why I'm doing this, because I think we are that close. As soon as we talk about it, we all start smiling. It's just incredible. Now, Jeremy's got to go soon, so I'm going to bring Jeremy on now. Sorry to those people who couldn't come in. Jeremy, are you there? Jeremy, hi. Good to see you, Jeremy. Look, the thing I just like to say, we all really appreciate the fact that you put your name forward at all in 2015, because if you hadn't done that, so many people would not have had all these experiences. I mean, I've just talked about some of mine, others have talked about theirs. It was a really generous thing of you to put yourself forward. You know, this hope that you gave us is still there when we talk about it. So like Colin was just saying, it is still there. We just don't have anywhere to particularly place it at the moment. But can you tell us, I mean, that we did a highlights, the 10 highlights of that time. Just unbelievable stuff. How on earth did you cope with all these things happening? I mean, it just seemed like one thing after another. There was these Glastonbury or Stormzy saying, "Oh, Jeremy Corbyn, songs about you," manifestos. It's just, you know, I can't. I'm unable to say any more than that. It's just that it was an extraordinary time.
Thanks, Crispin. And it's not me who gave hope. We gave ourselves hope because we came together and campaigned together and had an agreed set of principles that we worked upon. It is all about us. It's always the plural, never the singular. And I think we've got to always remember that. Before I say anything else, could I just endorse everything that Kate Hudson said earlier about Bruce Kent? He was a great friend of mine over many, many years. He lived quite near to me, and he inspired the peace movement to an incredible degree. From his background as a Catholic priest to become a great peace activist, driven by faith, driven by belief, but driven by a sense of humanity. And the last thing he attended locally was an iftar supper at the local mosque to show his support for the local Muslim community. Bruce is one of a kind, and I think we should just remember him and thank him and CND and his family for everything that he did. I just wanted to say that because he meant an awful lot to me. And he would often write to me as leader of the party with always on a postcard, always handwritten, and always legible, unlike my handwriting, with little bits of advice here and there. What a gent, what a lovely man. There's lots and lots I could say, but first of all, thank you, Crispin, for putting this event on, and thank you, everybody, for the comments that you've made. And the election of the leadership in 2015 was a seminal moment, and Raj and others did so much work to try to get the necessary 35 nominations. In the end, I think we were won over. We got 36. One had been sent in by email that we didn't know about. So John McDonnell was tearing his hair out when in fact we'd already passed the threshold, but we still had 2 minutes to go. So John had time to relax then. But when we got on the leadership ballot, Andrew Fisher and I sat down and realized that we had 2 problems. One is we had no organization, and secondly, we had no money. And so we then set about recruiting people to help, and we didn't need to recruit people. The phone calls and emails just came flooding in, and it was more than difficult to cope with all of that. And we then set about doing a national campaign, which took us all over the country, rallies, meetings, demonstrations, interviews, and so on. And the support began to grow because we were putting forward a very simple message that austerity is a political con. It's a political decision made in order to redistribute power and wealth in favor of the wealthiest within our society. And we're getting it again now at the end of COVID, a new round of austerity in order to try to cause more and more trouble. So that's why we put forward the manifesto that we did. But there were other things about the leadership campaign which were about redialing politics, because politics is not just what MPs say, think, or do. Politics is not just what elected officials do anywhere around the world. It has to be about popular movement. So the whole principle behind it was a popular campaign on the streets, in the open air, in the open, where you encourage people to come together for something positive, not just against things. And that we achieved in the policy statements we put forward in the leadership. And the first thing I did on being elected leader was to say that things can and they will change, and then went outside and spoke to a rally on refugees are welcome. I have to say a very large number of people advised me against doing that, some for good reasons, some for less good reasons. Andrew Fisher was not one of them, by the way. He was very happy that I was doing all of this. And I wanted to set the dial that we were and are an inclusive movement, and we should be and are an inclusive party, and that I wanted to emphasize. And so we then had problems immediately with the Parliamentary Labour Party. And we then had the challenge to my leadership the following year. And we met that challenge. And fortunately, the National Executive voted I could be on the ballot paper, and we won that election. And then we started work on policy making. To be quite honest, at the end of 2016, we were not expecting a general election in 2017. And that was a surprise to us, just like everybody else. And I want to pay a huge thank you and tribute to Andrew Fisher and all the team in my office at the time, because from that election announcement in April to the election itself in June, Andrew worked probably 18, 20 hours a day on policy making, policy consultations, making sure the thing was properly written and properly put together. We were unbelievably annoyed when an advanced copy of it was leaked. We still are not totally sure how or why it got leaked. And I was really, really annoyed when I found out about that. But in reality, it was a kind of useful, because the newspapers printed all this stuff about Corbyn's going to nationalise everything and public ownership, redistribution of power and wealth. And then everybody got very excited and started writing in saying that manifesto is fantastic. Can you add this, add that, or add the other to it? It was already quite a long document, and I was kind of worried about the length. And then we made some amendments and some improvements to it, and the manifesto was published and launched in Bradford at the university. And my memory of that day was that we had this big audience in front of us while we launched the manifesto, but we were in the atrium at the university, and each floor has a glass fronting to it onto the atrium, where the corridor leading between lecture theatres and offices and so on. And I looked up all around the atrium, every single window was full of the faces of students looking down and listening to what was being said at the launch of that manifesto. There was that enthusiasm, because we were, yes, saying we would abolish tuition fees, but more importantly, we were saying that education would be free from cradle to grave as a human right, as a public service. It was about inclusion and mobilizing people. And that is what mobilized so many young people into our campaign. And so I traveled the country all through the 2017 election campaign. I did about 100 events all over the country. Had there been time, I'd have done more. Remember, we did lose some days of campaigning because of the atrocity of the Manchester bomb and also the London Bridge issue. And that was damaging to the campaigning opportunities, never mind the horror of the event itself. And we did lose a bit of the small M momentum going forward in the campaign because of those two interregnums to it. But it was about mobilizing people, and everywhere we went, the rallies just got bigger and bigger. And we had the huge one at the Sage in Gateshead, which I spent the day doing various meetings all over the northeast. I've been to Blythe and I've been to a number of places. Then we got to the Sage, and I remember standing there waiting for the rally to start. I was just inside the Sage, and I was talking to this woman there who it wasn't really a Labour supporter, actually. Anyway, she was perfectly polite and perfectly pleasant. I said to her, I said, you don't really seem to be a Labour supporter. Why have you come? And she said, well, I've been reading the papers about you. And I said, well, that's a bad thing to do, but obviously you've got to do something. And she said, the papers say you're really evil. I said, okay, so what's your view on it? She said, I don't think you're evil. I really don't think you're evil. I think they're a bit unfair on you. I said, well, great. Will you come to the rally and hear the rest of it then? And she did. And so I took that as a result. But there was also, in a sense, almost two campaigns going on. There was me going around the country, doing the rallies and the meetings and mobilizing people as best I could. And on the final day of the campaign, we did 6 rallies, starting in Glasgow, going to the Northwest, going to the Midlands, and North Wales, and then finally ending up in London. And they were enormous rallies. Even at 8 o'clock in the morning in Glasgow, we had a huge crowd. And then we went to Colwyn Bay and had a huge number on the beach there and so on. And the rallies went on, and we ended up in my constituency at about 9:30 at night with thousands of people unable to get into the centre that we were holding, the Union Chapel we were holding the rally in.
I was outside. I couldn't get in. I was outside watching it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I hope you.
Sorry, don't worry. It was great. It's great.
I hope you. I please accept my forgiveness on this. We obviously were well aware of the opinion poll situation and what went with it, and the story about YouGov seems to me to ring horribly true in what I've read this morning, suppressing positive polling about Labour during the 2017 election. When we started the campaign, Labour support was put on 24%, and we were in a massive negative in every area you looked at. I had an immediate meeting with all of the team in my office, and this was about half an hour after the election had been announced. I called everybody together and I said, just remember this, a few quick points to you. One, we're only here because people outside are supporting us to be here to lead and do this campaign. And I looked out of the window and I said, look at all those people out there in London and every other part of the country. They are relying on us to deliver a manifesto that will bring about an end to austerity and real start to redistribute power and wealth in society. And secondly, it's going to be tough, it's going to be hard, it's going to be difficult, but this is the only chance we've got. Go out and do it. And we did, and it was, the first few days were quite difficult, but the public support and enthusiasm was there, and that grew throughout the campaign. But every time I went back to London, and for the last 10 days of the campaign, I was hardly in London at all. Every time I went back to London, I would meet journalists from the mainstream media who would tell me you haven't got a chance, would tell me the opinion polls show that you're absolutely finished and dead in the water. This will be the worst ever result for Labour in any election ever in recorded history, and so on. And there were, I later discovered, people that were actively undermining our campaign. Anyway, it was like there was two campaigns going on. And so any doubters, I said, okay, have you been out to talk to anybody recently? Have you been out on the road? Have you seen the campaign? Have you seen the enthusiasm and the grassroots organising campaign that goes into it? And so we got the result that we did, which was an incredible result. And I'm very, very proud of that result. But, and this is a big but, that's not enough. Because we adopted the principle of community-based campaigning and community organising, the only way forward for the left anywhere is essentially, in my view, community socialism. You go to people where they are, talk to them about their lives and what they're doing. Many people don't even realize it. They're actually socialists. So we've launched this idea in the Project of Peace and Justice, of a book, Why We Are Socialists. Anyone can contribute to it. We've had hundreds of contributions, maximum 500 words, absolute maximum 500 words. Write 150 if you want, any length. And it's brilliant because people talk about it from their own experience and their own belief in society, environmentalism, peace, social justice, housing, economy, lots of things. It's also about exciting people and mobilizing them. Now then, I'll finish on this. Last week, I went to Paris for the day. I went partly to go to a meeting of the Migration Committee of the Council of Europe to speak up for refugees and refugee rights. And then I spent the rest of the day campaigning with Daniela Bono in her constituency in Paris. Her and Danielle Sulaiman are in the 19th and 20th arrondissements, and they brought together a whole lot of people to support them in the campaign. And we had a rally in a square, and there were quite a lot of speakers, and I was sort of slightly concerned they'd got too many speakers. And I said to Danielle, why are so many speakers? She said, well, every local community we've spoken to in the last month in this campaign have particular issues. So we invited every one of them to come and tell us what their issues are. And so our rally became a growth of different campaigns: housing, health, post offices, transport, environment, clean air, nurseries, all kinds of things. Fantastic. And I hope to goodness that she wins today, if not wins next week. And there is also hope in Colombia. Petro is in the final ballot. The voting is now. I hope to goodness he wins. The opinion polls put him on 49%, the right-wing candidate on 47%, with 4% undecided. So he's only got to get 1% plus one vote, and he gets elected. And I was there as an election observer for the first round of it. And so there is hope, and I'll finish on this. I was with Jacobin magazine and others who organized a conference in Berlin over Friday and Saturday on socialism. And the headline was "Why We Are Socialists." It was lovely. We had this discussion about peace, about justice, about economy, and so on. And they were an aggregation of different left groups and communities from all over. And so in this period, we excited so many people and brought so many into party membership. They haven't gone away. They still want to see decency, social justice, environmental sustainability, a challenge to the rich and powerful in our society. The media, right-wing media, are going to hate us. They always do, and they will always pick on and try and isolate the individual. And I just want to say a huge thank you to all those people that gave me so much personal support and still do give me so much personal friendship and support, despite all the tribulations, problems, and yes, mistakes that were made by me and others. But I obviously take responsibility for them. But there is no way forward other than by optimism, by hope, by determination, and by creativity to bring about social justice and a decent world. It's called socialism. It should never be a dirty word. It should be the word that brings us together and unites us. And that's what I spend my time doing. And that's what I will continue always spending my time doing. Thank you, Crispin, for your show and the way in which you bring so many people together on it every Sunday.
Jeremy, before you go, are you up for doing a commemoration or celebration every year of your campaign? Because I think it would be nice to have that kind of jubilee for us. What do you think?
Yes, except we should not always be looking back with nostalgia. We've got
just once a year.
Forward.
Just once a year.
Just once a year.
One day a year.
Sort of Christmas, New Year, Easter, and this. Yeah, okay.
No, okay. I don't mean we should all go on about it all the time, but we should reflect and talk about how good it was and our hope.
Exactly. It's reflecting on that. And what I found so interesting was I always spend a lot of time traveling around the country anyway, and I do a lot of meetings with a lot of people, and that's what I do. What it did was brought people together discussing labor movement history, discussing the history of their own area. And many of the local parties got history groups together who wrote the history of the labor movement in their place. I've got a lovely book about the history of the labor movement in Milton Keynes. It's fascinating. It goes back to the railway works and so on. I've been given books from the Indian Workers Association and many others about their development. And so our legacy, if that's the right word, should be promoting a better understanding of what motivates people in history and empowering young people, because we can defeat racism by a better understanding of colonialism and imperialism. We can defeat racism by an understanding that we all as human beings contribute to things, but it's also about future strategies. June the 18th, big demonstration coming up, very, very important. Next Sunday, I'll be in Leicester supporting the Bakers Union, trying to organise in Samworths, which produces Soreen loaves and others that we're trying to get union organisation going there. It is about promoting union campaigns, union organisation. A bit of good news I saw this morning, Apple Store in Glasgow has become the first one ever to have union members working in it and be a fully unionised store. So where one apple falls, many more will follow.
Good ending. Good end. Thank you very much, Jeremy.
Thank you, Crispin.
Thanks. Now, I don't know if we've run out of time now. So those who've got their hand up, you can come back next year. Okay, is that all right? Just hang in there. keep the hope going for a year, and then you can come back. But I think it was important to hear from Jeremy. Now, Rob Johnson's here. Rob, how are you?
Yeah, that was lovely.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't. I do. It sounds like I'm being. Do I sound like I'm being kind of pretentious, or just trying to make myself cheerful by doing this memories of that period? Because I don't think it is that. I think it is actually a matter of, if you do feel, if we talk about that time, we start thinking, well, we can do that again, don't you think?
Yeah. Yes.
It's just
absolutely.
that we keep being told that it's all over.
Yeah.
It's finished. Corbyn's movement's finished. The Labour Party's under Starmer and everything's over and blah de blah. I just think that's a propaganda they're trying to tell us, and they'll probably mock the idea that we're discussing this at all, saying that we should be talking about how negative everything is now. But I don't agree with that. Anyway, I'll shut up now. What would you like to say?
Do you want a song? I could do a song that I wrote in 2017.
Yeah. And then we'll bring people into. You have to. If I put your, if you're highlighted, you have to dance. Okay, on your wherever you are, you have to dance. Ben, you put your hands in it. You put your head in your hands. You're getting on first, Ben. Where's Ben gone? Right, there he is. Right. Okay, I'll mute myself and I'll just bring dancers on for you, Rob.
Right. Okay. Right. I'll make sure it grooves a bit then. I did get asked to write this by Marcia Jane, Jeremy's confidant and campaign manager. So that's why I wrote it. Seven years of privilege, 7 years of spite, 7 years of austerity or austerity light. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna stand for the many, stand for the many, stand for the many, not the privileged few. 7 years of inequality, upper class war, attacking disability and the poor for being poor. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna stand for the many, stand for the many, stand for the many, not the privileged few. Oh, Jeremy Corbyn, oh, Jeremy Corbyn, oh, Jeremy Corbyn, Jeremy Corbyn. What we want is housing, social care, working together for a fair share. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna stand for the many, stand for the many, stand for the many, not the privileged few. You think we're gonna vote for you not paying your taxes, selective education, hunting foxes? Fuck off. What we're gonna do, we're gonna stand for the many, stand for the many,